So there are some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful spiritual teachings out there, aren't there? Maybe you guys have come across some. Maybe you even think the teachings that come from this body mind, Tom, are particularly nice, particularly good, maybe. Or maybe you resonate with at least some of what I say. And there are lots of other spiritual teachings out there. Lots of other teachings out there. Some of which, there are other teachings out there which you may well really like and love now. Or there might be other teachings out there which you have at one point found very helpful. And maybe now you find less so. One thing that I want to do, if you permit me to use those words, one thing that I want to do is not create dependence on any teaching for you. So you might like coming to these meetings. I hope you do. I try and make it welcoming. I try and for everyone, and I try and be as nice as I can and be to everyone, of course, and while at the same time being authentic and real. But what the point of the teachings is not to read more and more teachings forever and ever, or to attend more and more meetings forever and ever. In other words, the point of the teachings isn't to keep you coming for more, or to keep you dependent upon a teacher or a teaching, right? I hope everyone here isn't, I mean, when you go to spiritual groups, when you go to spiritual circles, people go to those groups for a whole variety of reasons. And I would expect the same with any group, including this group. Maybe we look for company. Maybe we look to share an expression, or for a shared expression of some kind of spiritual truth. Maybe some people go to groups because they want to appear to be spiritual. Maybe you like talking about the concepts as well as the deeper truths. You also like talking about it too. Maybe you like to be still and be at peace. There are a whole variety of reasons why you might come to a meeting, why one may attend a meeting. I hope one thing that binds us all together is we're interested in a genuine truth and a genuine realization for ourselves. And that implies that you readily and openly and happily admit that liberation is a total possibility for you. One, in this lifetime. Two, right now. Bear with me, sorry. So, as I said, if you're really interested in liberation, then I hope you feel that liberation is totally possible for you now. In this lifetime and now. Now, over the years, I've met many different people who in different sorts of spiritual settings, let's say. And some people don't feel that liberation is possible for them. Some people have that sense. Maybe you've come across people like that. Maybe that's even yourself. I don't know. But I want to assure you that liberation is possible right now for everyone. And the purpose of this group, the purpose of teachings, is to reveal that to you. If this group fulfills other purposes as well, then that's great. If it makes you feel less alone in your spiritual quest, if you enjoy the concepts, if whatever other reasons you may attend, genuinely, that's great. But that's not the primary aim of the meeting. The aim of the group, the aim of satsang is realization, nothing less. Full, total liberation. Total freedom. Now, if I tell you that the teachings that you need are already in you, will you believe me? The teachings you need are already in you or with you. Will you believe me? Every now and again, I hold up a book like this, don't I? This is one of my favorites. For those of you who've been attending a while, I say that about quite a few different books. They're all my favorites, it seems. But this is one of my favorites. Viveka Chudamani by Shankara. This is one of the early editions of a recent printing. Well, the book's over 1,000 years old, the text. So this is one of the early 20th century renditions. This book contains the entire path to liberation. Pretty much all the teachings for the path of knowledge, jnana yoga, are in this book. It's a beautiful text. It takes you stepwise through all the teachings. It starts off assuming, the teaching starts off from the point of view that you've got a seeker who's separate from the teacher. And the seeker thinks he's separate from the teacher, and the seeker thinks he or she is unenlightened, unliberated. And then it takes you stepwise through all the teachings and then reveals to you that actually liberation is. Liberation is all there is right now. So it's a wonderful text. Valuable text. Valuable teachings. What if I told you that all those teachings and this valuable text are already in you? This book is one of the most important books in the whole of Advaita, because it is a traditional text, hundreds of years old, that tells you the path to liberation. Explains it to you step by step. What if I told you that everything that's in this book is non-verbally in you? It is. That's where this book came from. You understand? This is an expression, just as when I'm speaking, it's an expression of an eternal teaching that is already in you. Everything you need, you already have. Maybe you've forgotten how to access these teachings. These teachings speak to you if you listen. To yourself. They tell you what to do. If you know how to listen to your intuition or to your, I'll say, feelings, for want of a better word, not quite feelings, deeper than feelings. And if you're totally self-honest, then you'll be able to discern the voice of the teaching, which I often call a voiceless voice. Because it sometimes speaks to you verbally, but more often than not, this inner voice that tells you what to do, the teaching, is your own voice, by the way, your own inner voice. It's the sound of the self, we could say. It's not actually a sound or a voice, but yet it tells you what to do in a non-verbal way. You have to be able to discern this voice from the ego. And it's very easy to discern if you're honest with yourself. If you're trying to do this or trying to do that, you're saying, oh gosh, I'm not sure. But you know when it's something that it comes from ego. You know when it's something that comes from self, let's say. The teacher within, we can call it many names. We can call the teacher within God. We can call the teacher within Holy Spirit. As we become a bit less dualistic and more towards non-duality, we can call it the higher self. The God that's imparting his or her wisdom to you is actually you. It's your higher self. The dreamer, the knower, the higher self. This presence, this higher self, God's presence, is always inviting you to be with him. God is always inviting you, be with me. Come, sit with me, be with me, rest with me, abide with me. Stop all your fretting, worrying, striving. Sit with me, be with me, be in my presence. So let's make this a bit more practical. Let's make this a bit more practical. It's midweek. It's been a few days since you've last been at Satsang. Some stresses, some worries are coming up. You're feeling confused about the teaching. You've heard the teaching hundreds of times. You've read the teachings hundreds of times. You thought you knew it all, and suddenly you find that even though you know it all, you don't feel you know anything now. You're confused. You're suffering, maybe. And you remember that Tom said, the teaching's within you. And you're thinking, where's this fucking teaching? I can't find this fucking teaching. I'm confused. What do you do? Well, I've given advice before for what to do when you're confused. You know, generic advice, general advice. What's the general advice? This is the general advice. When you're confused, when you don't know what to do, when you're trying to figure it out, when you're clicking through YouTube videos trying to get the teaching you need, or you're trying to read through a book or a text, trying to, oh, what's the teaching that's gonna get me enlightened? I've got the book upside down. Okay, I need to, what's the teaching I need? You know? The teaching you need is with you already, is in you. So what do you do? Step one, if you want to access the teaching from within you, because sometimes if you're lucky, you'll find the teaching in a book or a YouTube video or something, right? That can happen. But if you want to wean yourself off external teachings and teachers, which is what I recommend, and find your own inner teacher, what you do, step one, is be still. And that means stop, relax. We can do it together now if you want. You do this. You sigh a few times. The great thing about being on a Zoom call is that you're all muted. No one can hear you sigh. Yeah, we might be able to see you looking a bit silly, but the only person you'll hear sounding a bit silly is me. So no one will hear you. Do that for as long as you need to. A few sighs, deep breaths. And when you exhale, it's good to elongate the exhalation. And you can do that by pursing your lips, like. You can have a stretch if you want. You can stretch. You can arch your head back, because often when you get stressed, your shoulders come up and you get this hunchback position, you know, the posture goes. You can sit up straight. Oh, I like what some of you guys are doing. That's good stuff, guys. Yes. And you see, this is actually the root of yoga. One of the roots, one of the seeds of yoga here. This is actually yoga. You're doing the breathing. You sit up straight. You align yourself. You do that for as long as you need to. And at some point, you won't feel like you need to do so many sighs anymore. And settle down into silence. And feel the presence of God, which is your presence, which is a simple presence of being. When you're ready, and take your time. It could take 2 minutes, it could take 20 minutes. Just ask God. If you don't believe in God, ask the universe. If you don't believe in the universe, ask your higher self. Or ask your inner wisdom. Whatever question you need to ask. What do I do? What do I do? What is the wisdom for me? What wisdom do you have for me? And listen to that voiceless voice. See what that voiceless voice says. More often than not, it will just be a simple invitation to be. Sometimes it's something else. Sometimes it's more directive. It's the same voiceless voice that lets us know that we are already divine beings. We are already divine beings. And as that wisdom clarifies, we will realize we're not divine beings with an S on the end, the plural. We realize we are divine being, the singular. We realize there is only divine being. Everything is just divine being. So the wonderful thing about this teacher within is that a teacher within will give you the teachings you need that are perfect for you, tailor-made for you, wherever you happen to be. In the Christian tradition, after Jesus was crucified on the cross, in the Christian tradition, they say he resurrected after 3 days. He came back again. And he met his disciples. And eventually, he then ascended up to heaven. They call it the ascension. He went up to heaven to be one with God. And at the ascension, according to the Christian tradition, he left with us the Holy Spirit in our hearts to guide us. That bit of divinity within all of us, which can guide us. Now, whether or not you believe that Christian story or not is not the point. The point is there is a counselor. Counselor means someone who counsels you, gives you counsel, gives you guidance. And it's just not an ordinary counselor. It's a divine counselor. Divine counsel. It means it's perfect. Perfect advice. Never fails. The only thing that fails is your ability to discern it and listen to it. It's a voiceless voice, which means it's quiet. So the best way to listen to it is for you to be quiet. So it's funny, actually. This is not the teaching that I thought I'd give today. Just before I was coming on the call, I had some other ideas going around my head. It's often the way it happens, though. When I come here, something else comes through. So that voice, this voice, that divine voice, is your voice. That voice that tells you to be with him, be with me. God speaks to you and says, be with me. You might phrase it slightly differently. Find the words that work for you.